Do you like wrestling? Do you ever watch wrestling?
No. Nope.
And The Rock said, whoa, 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 because I'm still standing here, custom made, brother. Woo! And I mean custom made, from the alligators to the only Cassini right here, Ric Flair. There's only one.
We're not the kind of guys that say, we told you so, but we told you so.
Yeah, no thank you from the Young Bucks.
Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman.
You know who I am.
What's up, gang? Welcome to Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, the podcast that breaks down the biggest stories in and out of the ring. My name is Mike Wellman. I am your host. It's good to be here. This is episode 72 of Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, if you can believe it. 72 episodes and then some here on the podcast, but we are back for another one, and on this episode, we are going to be talking about the AEW World Champion, Samoa Joe, and his first title defense against Hook on Dynamite, and the setup there at the end with Swerve and Hangman now coming for that AEW title. We're also going to talk about the Young Bucks and their transformation. Matthew and Nicholas are likely going to face Sting in their final match, or in his final match at Revolution. So we're going to get into the Young Bucks' new character arc that they started on Dynamite and Sting's final match. Also, Jack Perry shows up in New Japan, rips up his AEW contract. Nic Nemeth also showed up in New Japan and TNA. So we're going to talk about those guys. And is Tyler Bate going to deprogram Butch and bring back Pete Dunne? I hope so. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, Pete Dunne might already be back walking among us. So we'll get to that segment that I thought was good from SmackDown last week. All that, plus we went to a pro wrestling grind show, and we are here to talk about it. So, got a lot to get to on this episode for sure. And joining me, as always, to break down all the chaos in the world of wrestling, Wrestling Fan Kris, a.k.a. the notorious KRS. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, Mike? And I just want to point out, TNA is back, and I want to start the show by quoting a TNA legend. I am the greatest tag team of all time.
You're not the greatest tag team of all time. The Dudley Boys are the greatest tag team of all time. Okay, Scott Steiner?
Ooh. I don't know about that one, but hey.
Yeah, that was the scene that was from the Bubba Bully Ray said, I'm one half of the greatest tag team of all time, and Scott Steiner said, I'm the greatest tag team of all time.
Hey, at least he didn't do any math.
Not in that one. The Steiner math does add up though, folks. That tweet I put out there, did you see that one about the Steiner math?
For sure I did. I don't remember, though.
Scott Steiner said that they asked him to take a drug test, and he said he would go with, he said, have Triple H pick me up in a limo, and we'll both get drug tested.
Yes, and I do remember that now. Yep.
And they never drug tested him, so I said, that Steiner math adds up to me.
That's one of the greatest things I ever heard, actually. I'm glad Scott Steiner did that.
But yeah, a legend of TNA, Scott Steiner. I wonder if they'll have him back now that TNA Wrestling is back. You know what's funny about TNA before we get into the show? TNA is the company that when they changed their name to Impact, everybody called them TNA for years after. And now they're TNA again, and I just still want to call them Impact.
Yep. Weird time to do it, but whatever.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with TNA, but we're going to get to Nikki from the Spirit Squad going to TNA on this episode. So like I said, we got a lot to get to. We're going to talk about Sting, the Young Bucks, Samoa Joe, and a lot of other stuff. Like I said, Pro Wrestling Grind. But before we go any farther, that's right. We need you to be kind, subscribe, watch wrestling with Mike Wellman. Like, subscribe, share. You already know where to find the podcast. YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We are Watch Wrestling Pod on Facebook. We see you, Facebook cousins. Instagram, Watch Wrestling Podcast. I said it. I meant it. We go to indie shows because we want to be the ones to get those views. We do it for the reals. X at W Wrestling Pod. You do not want to miss these posts on X. Are you kidding? We're tagging The Rock on X in our posts about noticing Otis. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X. Subscribe to the podcast. You already know, because you already found this podcast. And we look forward to having zero problems, big fella. Isn't that right, Wrestling Fan Kris?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you don't want the notorious KRS to come out. So you better subscribe. That is a threat.
It only happens once in a while, but you don't want to see it.
That is a threat of violence from me to my listeners. No, just kidding.
As long as there's no monitors around.
No, we appreciate everybody who listens to the podcast. I don't want to be in fear for my safety at wrestling shows.
That's right.
More than I already am. I'm not Tony Khan. I have been in fear of my safety at a wrestling show before. No, just kidding. But yes, let's get into the show here. So the first thing we have to talk about is one of the baddest men who ever lived, and his name is called Joe. So this week on Dynamite, Samoa Joe made his first defense of the AEW World Championship against Hook, which a lot of people thought was an interesting matchup for Samoa Joe for his first title defense. I don't think anybody thought Hook had a chance to win the AEW Championship, but the way this match played out, I thought was absolutely perfect. For one, Samoa Joe coming into the arena, that shot of the champion and the challenger walking in to the arena, this shot of Samoa Joe, did you see this, Chris, when he's just walking in wearing his normal clothes?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I would bet that that's Samoa Joe's normal clothes, but you could tell him to dress like that and it would be equally as scary. Like, Samoa Joe looked like if you're fighting another kid on the playground and that's one of the kid's fathers and he starts walking towards you, you're just running for it.
That's very good. Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Like, if I'm at the bus stop and I'm fighting with another kid and that's their dad, I'm not even coming to the bus stop again tomorrow. I'm
you better
gone.
get a bike. Yeah.
Yeah, like that guy gets out of the car to sort out what's going on with the kids. No, thank you. I don't want none. Samoa Joe just looking like a badass dad for some reason at the on Dynamite when he was walking into the arena. And you know what's interesting? It's like these wrestlers, they maybe should dress them up for these shots of them walking into the arena, because a lot of these guys look really weird in normal clothes. Like, you remember back in the day they'd have Kane and he'd be wearing like street clothes with like a fucking ski mask on or something, as if he walked around town like that.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
Or just any of these big giant wrestler guys. Like, you know, you'd see videos of like The Undertaker. The first time you saw The Undertaker like in street clothes, you're like, what the heck? First of all, why is he wearing that? Why are they all wearing like just denim all the time? Or, like Diesel walking around the airport. Like, is this how they dress? So it's bad enough that these guys are gigantic and look ridiculous in normal clothes anyway, but then the clothes they choose to wear is like makes it even worse. So maybe they should make these guys dress like Rhea Ripley or something when they're walking in the arena, so it looks like they have like their gear, but then they have like their street gear, but it's still gear.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good idea, yeah.
Because some of these normal outfits are just a little too normal, you know?
You can't. I don't want to see another jean jacket or like a cut off jean vest for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I don't want to see Samoa Joe at a parent-teacher conference either. So I'm telling you, he just looked like a dad that would mess you up. That was the vibe I got. And then Hook just looked like Hook. He just came in through like a weird side garage door, and his hair was messed up.
That sounds like Hook, yeah.
But yeah, so the match, right? So it's like no one thinks Hook, the current FTW champion, has a chance to beat Samoa Joe, right? Like, Samoa Joe is not going to lose the championship in his first match, even if he's going up against, Kenny Omega, right?
Yes.
But this I thought was actually the perfect opponent for Samoa Joe, because what they got out of it was Hook looking so much tougher by the end, and Samoa Joe still looking like a relentless badass at the end as well, right?
Yes.
So the match starts, which they built this thing up great, I thought. I mean, again, I didn't think it was, this epic pay-per-view level showdown that was about to happen, but I definitely watched it. And it just had that, kind of a feel of like, we're going to watch this again in the future kind of a thing. So right out of the gate, Hook is attacking Samoa Joe like you do, like the underdog should do.
You have to, yep.
And it didn't even look like Hook stood a chance in the match. So then Samoa Joe takes over. He's dismantling Hook, right? And you got Taz on commentary. Spoiler, he's Hook's dad.
What?
That's his dad. Right? And it's like, I'm thinking they did this spot where Samoa Joe does like this spinning like Uranagi slam onto the announce table, which was so brutal. They literally commenting on the fact that Hook's back was all red afterwards. So he does this slam right on the table in front of Taz, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, can you imagine just, you be having a pro wrestling career that, jacked up your body, and with Taz, it was a neck injury, right? And then your kid decides he wants to go into wrestling. So you've already got to weigh that out, and you run the risk where if your kid, has some bad experience in wrestling, whether it's an injury or one of the other many things that wrestling can do to ruin your life, you probably have a level of like guilt, right? So then on top of it, now you're watching your young son get slammed by a legit tough guy, Samoa Joe, right in front of your face, right? It's like, are you having any second thoughts about getting your kid into this business? Then I thought, your kid is in a world championship match. So no.
Yeah, exactly.
like, oh yeah, do I have second thoughts about getting my kid into wrestling? And gosh darn it, he's getting his ass kicked in a world championship match. So I then thought that it was probably more of a proud father moment for the human suplex machine.
I mean, that's a funny thing to think about. Man, that spot you're talking about was brutal too. Like, it wasn't, I feel like he was supposed to get a little more table, a little more back, and it was almost all like neck and shoulders. It was just devastating.
Yeah, it was brutal. So
that tail didn't break. Huh?
Yeah, so then Samoa Joe is rightfully controlling the match, and then it's like, now it's just a matter of when, right? Like, what Samoa Joe's obviously going to win, and not just your wrestling knowledge thinking it's unlikely. Like, you're watching the man beat the other man.
Yes.
So then finally Hook has like that last attempt. He like lands this big suplex on Samoa Joe, and like the crowd was just so into it. Like, yes, like Hook, your last bit of energy you just use. It was just like, it was like Hogan slamming Andre, or like Lex Luger picking up Yokozuna. It was just like this big slam, right? And then obviously Samoa Joe, like I said, takes over again and wins by putting Hook to sleep with the coquina clutch. And then at the end, Hook, comes to, regains consciousness, and he's like, kind of still talking shit to Samoa Joe. And then, Samoa Joe comes in, beats him up some more. Then we get the future happening, right? So Hook was like the opening act for Samoa Joe. And it was perfect, because you could have put Samoa Joe in there against, no offense to any of these names, you could have put Samoa Joe in there against like John Silver. You could have put him in there against, Trent Beretta, someone that is obviously also just fodder to lose.
Yeah.
But in this case, you also made Hook into this bigger superstar as well in the loss.
And isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean, I know it's hard to do all the time, but isn't that like almost the perfect booking? Isn't that what we all strive for if we're booking?
Yeah. So Hook comes out looking, I mean, again, the guy got put to sleep, and he came out looking a lot better at the end.
Yeah.
Like, he's still tough. He's still Hook. He's still the FTW champion. But and it's like a good showing kind of a thing, because it's almost like no one expects you to win. That's the story, right? It's like no one expects you to win, but how do you perform, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And just the match overall was great. It was this underdog story, and this is why, like when we talked about Samoa Joe, when I told you he was going to be the next AEW champion, and why it was the logical and perfect, is because Samoa Joe is that guy where you'll have an underdog match, and the underdog will lose. And people will still cheer,
Yeah.
like Samoa Joe just destroying Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania, stuff like that, where it's like, it's both logical, plausible, and then when it happens, you're okay with it, like, oh, the underdog, he didn't win, he got his ass kicked. It's like, it's not disappointing, which is great. So I love the match. Like I said, it was a great opening act for Samoa Joe. Hook didn't lose anything there. And then we get to Hangman coming out. Apparently, Hangman is going to be the next AEW champion, because he did a promo earlier in the night where he said that he needs to be the AEW champion, and no one cares more about the AEW championship than him. And I thought that was a great promo as well, because, Hangman had that whole little bit that he added about how, the stuff that he had been through in the last year and a half really messed him up, and then he's got to try to come back, right? And he did lose to Swerve, obviously, in that death match.
Yep.
But here he is again, ready to go again to challenge for the AEW championship. And he still comes off as a credible challenger, potential next champion, right? Especially with that Tom Selleck mustache he's rocking.
Nice look.
Apparently, Magnum TA is going to be the next AEW champion.
He deserves it.
He does. I wish. But, yes, Hangman with the manliest mustache in the world coming for that AEW title. So he comes out. Samoa Joe rightfully leaves the ring. And then also, because there can't just be one next challenger for the AEW championship. There has to be at least 14.
You're correct.
No. So we get in the crowd Swerve. And this was very telling, because you have Samoa Joe and Hook, who just put on a great show, had the crowd at their fingertips. Hangman, the people's champion here, the babyface, comes out, and then Swerve is in the crowd, and everybody is chanting, "Whose house? Swerve's house." Nuff said. Nuff said. That's whose house it is. Unfortunately, it's not Tom Selleck's house.
They're going to have to address that, because I just hope they don't force it. Just let Swerve keep doing it, but we can't have like Swerve just over healing, or Adam Page like over baby facing and making it lame. So hopefully it doesn't happen. Like
Swerve trying to get them to stop doing that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah,
like Lashley used to do that very well. Like people would cheer him, and he would be like, "Boo!" Like just start seething at the crowd, and then all of a sudden, boo!
Yeah, he did do that well. Yeah,
but I hope Swerve doesn't, like, don't cheer me. I hope he just kind of takes it in.
Yeah, that won't work for him. I think they'll do that though, because they seem like smart workers. So,
but it's evidence of a groundswell of support for Swerve as your next AEW champion.
I mean, I think that's where we should be heading. But I mean, I just get nervous, because is Samoa Joe really going to lose the title this quick? And are we really going to waste Swerve's opportunity this quick? So I don't know.
Maybe not. So it seems like we're lining up both Hangman and Swerve Strickland as the next challengers for the AEW championship. And it seems like, just based off of that final segment on Dynamite, that it might not be, Hangman and then Swerve. It seems like it's maybe going to be a triple threat match that they build towards at maybe Revolution.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and I guess that's okay, because Joe could still win, and it's like not a one-on-one contest, so Page and Swerve won't like really lose much. Maybe they're going at it, and that's how they kind of like, that's how Joe wins, and it kind of makes Joe can talk more shit because he beat two people now, and then Hook's also kind of set up for later. So I mean, it's actually not bad to like get these people lined up as potential future opponents, or also lining people up for Samoa Joe to knock down and keep him being a badass.
Yeah, I mean, I would venture to say that I do think Samoa Joe is going to lose the championship to either Hangman or Swerve. Not saying it's going to be in their next match, like let's say they book it on Dynamite or whatever. I don't think it's going to be the next time he defends the championship, but maybe they build toward, maybe they have the triple threat where maybe at Revolution, Samoa Joe pins Hangman or steals the win away from Swerve. Like somebody comes out that should have won kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe's able to retain. Then maybe you build toward, maybe it's Double or Nothing. Samoa Joe versus Swerve. Swerve wins at Double or Nothing. To me, that would be.
That actually seems legit. It's a good way to put it. And that's a feather in the cap of having a little bit of less amount of pay-per-views, you know, like if it's month to month, you kind of force yourself into a corner sometimes booking, but when there's a little more time spread out, you can kind of do this where they have a triple threat match, and then at the next one, the one-on-one contest happens and the belt gets dropped, so it doesn't seem as rushed.
Right. And I just, throughout Samoa Joe, like I said on the last episode, I said nobody. So what I said when I was watching it back, it kind of came off weird. What I said was nobody was mad when Samoa Joe beat MJF. Obviously, the front row of visible people on Long Island were very mad. I didn't mean MJF's friends.
Yeah.
In the crowd, they were like, "Oh, what? Oh," you know. Obviously, the hometown people on the home island, folks on Long Island. But like in general, the sentiment, no one is saying like this guy shouldn't be the champion. It's like everyone is basically in agreement that Samoa Joe completely deserves to be the AEW World Champion, right?
Yes.
Not just now, but as almost like a, you know, almost like a lifetime achievement kind of award. As far as he's a legend, he's been everywhere. But, you know, he went to WWE, let's face it, he wasn't the world champion in WWE. He probably could have been.
Yeah.
He didn't beat Brock Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire, but he is deserving, is what I'm trying to say. And it seems like universally recognized that Samoa Joe is respected as champion. And he is adding to the legacy of the AEW championship by being champion, I think.
I think so, and I think he's the type of guy that you can put out there on Dynamite even every week, even if maybe you don't want him taking on a challenger every week, but even if he does, even if it's only 8 to 10 minutes and it's just a match, it's a brutal like ass kicking match, just two big guys fighting each other and beating the shit out of each other. Those are things we enjoy and that we can do week to week without having to like overexert like 25 minutes, 30 minutes here, taking all these bumps, getting hurt. We can do 8 to 9 minutes of just a brutal beatdown, and it'll be fun.
And I may or may not have used to rock a ball chain around my neck, and not because I liked metal music, because I was a young, impressionable Samoa Joe fan.
Wow. All right.
I saw a photo recently of myself with a ball chain. I ripped up the photo promptly, but I do recognize it was definitely because of a young Samoa Joe.
I mean, it is funny how long he's been around. Like, I just watched the match from 2005 with him and Kobashi in Ring of Honor. I'm like, this is like almost 20 years ago. Holy moly.
It is crazy. And we thought these same things about him then. It's just he wasn't this established legendary veteran, right? Like all the way through the TNA run, you know, it was always like, yes, This man deserves to be world champion. When will his time come? And if you think about it, I mean, he went through Ring of Honor, TNA, all these places. He just didn't win the WWE any type of world title there. But yeah, so I thought it was a great match, and I liked the build at the end. And I don't like how my camera here, every time I move, this auto bullshit is like making it seem very dark in here. But anyway. So we'll see what's next for Samoa Joe. Like I said, I think he's going to drop that belt to either Hangman or Swerve. So we'll see what happens.
Looking forward to it.
All right. So another thing on AEW that we have got to get to was this Young Bucks segment on Dynamite. So the Young Bucks came out last week on Dynamite at Daly's place at the end of Sting and Darby's match to essentially challenge Sting for his final match. They came out, and what was notable was that they were looking completely different, right? These guys had weird douchey mustaches, wearing suits. Their hair was like in ponytails. They just look like douchebags.
Oh, yeah.
And not the normal Young Bucks douchebag kind of look. Like not the Nick Jackson with the burnt umber, dyed sideburns and mustache and handlebars. It was like they're looking like just, I don't know how to describe it. They're wearing the suits, the chains. Nick Jackson has, what are these hats even called? Is this like a Kangol hat? It's got a name, like the Irish, it's got a name, these hats. Let me know on Twitter, on X, at WWrestlingPod, what these hats are called. You know, like if you're in the movie The Departed, and you're working for Jack Nicholson and you're wearing one of these hats.
Hell yeah.
And your mother's not doing so great. She's on her way out.
Oh, boy.
You know, what are these hats called? So, but yeah, so they're doing this segment, and I thought they made a lot of good points in this segment. For one, they got across their new transformation pretty quickly because they are, you will call them by their birth names, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, which, when they said Jackson, that popped me in my living room. Come on. You call us by our birth names, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Gotcha. So these guys are back, and they are now, after this hiatus that they went on after having a giant temper tantrum a few months ago. Really, when was that? Was that Full Gear? When we last saw the Young Bucks?
I think it was, yeah.
And now they're back, and all this years-long CM Punk drama is both over, but it's you know, there's some fallout from it, right? Like a lot of people came out just losing momentum. Their career is not in the same spot just because they, you know, had beef with CM Punk. This was what Hangman was saying about how the last year and a half of his life has been bad before the Swerve match. And the Young Bucks are now they found a way to talk about it, right? Because what they can't do, we all know they can't talk about the specifics of the fight. Apparently, we know some people didn't sign NDAs and they can talk about it. But we know that the Young Bucks will not be giving us details about the locker room fight that occurred after All In, what was it, 2022? So long ago at this point.
I know.
But if you think about it, while we were all bickering about whose fault it was, is CM Punk a good guy or a bad guy? Is he a douche? Is he a fake? Is he a phony? It's like there's fallout and there's people being negatively affected by it. Yes, CM Punk can take his bag and leave and go to WWE and get 7 million views on a YouTube video in one day. It's like great for CM Punk. He's able to take, he actually, like, he almost like, he didn't do those numbers in AEW, but now he's back in WWE and he's doing these huge numbers. So it's almost like he was able to just capitalize even further as this thing went on and just keep going up and up and up. Whereas the Young Bucks, you know, their reputation definitely changed in a negative way after the whole drama with CM Punk going on. They didn't look, the victory lap on Collision didn't make them look good in a lot of people's eyes, right? After Punk was gone.
Definitely not.
And so I thought Matthew Jackson made a lot of good points in here about how, you know, they started this company, AEW, and this stuff has ruined their reputations. It's ruined their careers. It's stressed them out in their life. But would he do it again? Yes, he would, because there's this successful company called AEW that they actually started. So, and he reminded Renee that they're EVPs around here. This is the first time they're really getting into that as characters, which I know when they all started AEW, they didn't set out to be the next authority, right? It was not going to be the Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny Omega are the new corporation and they're EVPs and they're going to be the heel authority figures, right? It was kind of just they're the EVPs because they started the company. And obviously their assignments and their power and all that stuff changed, and they got their booking kind of changed to where it's just Tony Khan really booking everything, but still, the EVP status is still there with the Young Bucks. And now they're saying, hey, Renee, did you get your paycheck? Yeah, you're welcome. They should be saying that more often.
I agree. I think it's great.
You know, they should be saying that to everybody. It's like, oh yeah, you guys want to talk shit about us and what we're wearing this week or what we said this week, or you want to try to bully us online until we cancel our Twitter because we get so much hate. It's like, did you get your paycheck this week? Yeah, you're fucking welcome. Do you have a job in this company? You're welcome. Did you get a raise at the other company because they didn't want you to come here? That's what you should say next. You're welcome.
Oh, they need to say that. That's a great one.
So what I think is going to happen here is this is like a ball of clay, right? Like this is what the Young Bucks do. Everything they've ever done, every like character gimmick bit they've ever tried, for one, they've gotten it over generally, but they've gotten better at it as it went along, right? And then they're also really good at when something is either not working or even when it is working, just not letting it get stale. Like the Young Bucks, they'll do something great and then they'll just take it from you. You know, like they'll just do this bit on BTE and they'll say, yeah, it's going great. We're done with it because we don't want it to get old, you know, or it's not working. Definitely done with it. So I don't think that this is going to get stale or anything. I think that this, especially this Matthew Jackson character, I think the more he does this, the more he like workshops this like chip on his shoulder, like I'm your boss for fuck's sake kind of an attitude. I think it's only going to get better. And I think those little barbs are going to get a little sharper here because the one thing that stuck out to me in this promo was this line by Matthew Jackson. And like I said, he found a way to talk about it, guys. This is what he says. He says, we started to lean on yesterday's self-serving, superficial, cancerous superstars. First of all, that statement is filled with buzzwords. Superstars? Yes. What superstars are in AEW?
Oh, that's good. I didn't catch that. Nice.
Cancerous? Who's a cancer? There's really only one person I've ever heard get called a cancer, and they're being called a cancer by like everybody. Wasn't it like Triple H originally that said he's a cancer? Or it was somebody like John Laurinaitis. It was one of those like stooge guys backstage that called him a cancer. Like originally said that he was a cancer in the locker room. Then Jericho allegedly calls him a cancer moments after the brawl out fight. Says you're a cancer. Then Seth Rollins, talking to Nick Hausman like last summer, says, I don't like Phil. He's a cancer. Stay gone, you cancer.
Oh, boy.
Right? I love going back to look at that Seth Rollins thing because, yes, they are working together now. And I hope that Rollins and Punk have this mega feud. And I hope they turn all of this cancer nonsense into just a legendary feud, and I think that they both can, to be honest, Rollins and Punk. I think it's going to be
Definitely
huge. But just, that's where this comes from. Cancerous? Nobody else is cancerous, for God's sakes. You know, it's Punk they're talking about. So I like how they found a way to do the same thing CM Punk does, right? When he's talking about how, in the pipe bomb promo, when CM Punk is talking about how, you know, Vince McMahon's going to be dead someday, and this company's going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his douchebag son-in-law, right? Or like when he's talking about when he says that he's sick of nonsensical douchebag glad-handing yes men. It's like this is straight out of the CM Punk playbook. Like, you know who you're talking about.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Everybody knows who you're talking about when you say these things. And, you know, CM Punk did come out in his return to AEW. Everybody was wondering, what's he going to do? Is he going to mention the Young Bucks? And this was when he called himself, well, apparently, you know, David Zaslav, who still might be looking for One Bill Phil, said he calls him One Bill Phil because he is the genuine article in a world filled with counterfeit bucks. So there you go. Punk can use little limericks.
That's right.
Right? It's fine when CM Punk does it. So here we have Matthew Jackson delivering a little pipe bomb of his own, right?
Oh, yeah, and I'm looking forward to this, too, because as great as the Young Bucks are in the ring, and I know they are, and I know they have great matches, and that's really the reason why we come and watch them, I enjoy character work like this. I was waiting and waiting for them to do this kind of thing where they just get me to hate them, and it's almost like, for me, it's like must-see TV. when I want to hate them so much and when he has this chip on his shoulder kind of thing. So it's looking very positive for me. I'm looking forward to it very much.
Yeah, and what I tweeted from the podcast Twitter account at W Wrestling Pod, I said the Young Bucks are about to make people feel some things with this new transformation, right? Because it's like you thought you hated us before, you know, when all we did was rub it in your face. It's like now, and this is what they should be doing, to be honest, because their reputation did get dragged through the mud, right? Anytime someone has one of these public feuds, there's always a loser, right?
Yes.
And you don't even have to have done anything wrong. It's just if someone can like publicly pwn you, all of a sudden, you're yesterday's trash, you know? And say what you want about the shots fired on both sides. Obviously, like I just brought up, you know, the victory lap and everything. But now, it's like if you can, I don't know, forgive, but if you can move on and continue to watch CM Punk, which we can, he's in WWE now, it's like, great. It's as much views as it gets and as fun as drama is to talk about backstage fights, it's like we do want to move on. And it's been years of talking about CM Punk, right? Doing and the backstage drama. So it's like if we can move on with CM Punk and say, you know, now he's in WWE, like I said, probably going to main event, well, depending on what's going on with Rollins, Punk's probably going to be in a big match at WrestleMania and in the Royal Rumble, might even win the Royal Rumble this year. We can also move on with the Young Bucks, and we can let them move on with their career. We don't have to have this, you know, I'm still mad at you from 20 years ago because you tased Bill Goldberg with a cattle prod and ended his streak. Like, we can just move on. So, and I think that this is a good way for them to do that because now we're going to be talking about this stuff and not the past. But I do think Matthew Jackson, I think he should keep going down this road and really just, it's like, yeah, you can't talk about certain things, but anything you can talk about, I don't think anything should be off limits for this dude. He should be going for the throat with whatever topic they decide to, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I also tweeted out at W Wrestling Pod, Matthew Jackson made a lot of good points, which he did.
And that's the best. When someone's being a real douche like that and you want to hate them, but they're making good points, that's how it really hits.
Yeah, so I'm excited for what they do next. I thought it was an interesting choice for Sting's last match because I did start to wonder. Sting's last match is coming up. We know it's going to be at Revolution in Greensboro. And it's like, well, who's it going to be, right? It's not because most of Sting's contemporaries are, let's face it, they're either no longer with us, or they're retired, or they're whatever Ric Flair is.
Very good, yes.
Right? And like who would Sting? It was like he wouldn't wrestle, you know, Ric Flair, one of his contemporaries. I mean, 97, 98 Sting. He's not going to wrestle Hogan. He's not going to wrestle Goldberg. You know, he's not going to wrestle Nash. So, and then he's not going to wrestle Jeff Hardy. You know, from the TNA days.
Oh yeah, good point. No,
like who is left for Sting to wrestle? It's like, do you go with someone, like I said, one of his contemporaries? You know, like whomever you might be able to find that can still wrestle, or do you go down kind of one notch to maybe like a Kurt Angle type guy, or do you go down all the way to where you're getting some like 23-year-old like a Nick Wayne type guy to go in there for Sting's last match, right? So there's a lot of different directions you could go. The Young Bucks come out, like I said, a couple weeks ago at Daly's Place on Dynamite, and we're off to the races. It looks like we're getting Sting and Darby versus the Young Bucks, and I do think the Young Bucks, obviously, while they're out there not getting any credit for what they do in the ring, I do think that they can carry Sting to a great final match. I don't think that's anything to worry about. And it turns out, according to, I think, Sean Ross Sapp, that it was Sting's choice. This was Sting's choice because he worked with them at, I can't remember which match, but he worked with them in the ring, and Sting, this is what he wanted to do. So it's like, right on. Yes, everyone should get this. Everyone should get to say, I want to wrestle that guy or those guys in my last match. We should not have to wrestle Baron Corbin.
I was literally going to say, I was going to say, the one that we do know is, we're glad it's not Baron Corbin. That's yeah. So I really like
what the Young Bucks are doing. Shocker. And I think that they will give Sting a proper super kick to the face in his final match. And then that leads us to the question, Wrestling Fan Kris. Do you think the legendary career of Sting will end with a win for Sting?
I'm going to say no, because if Sting picked the Young Bucks, he respects them a lot. He's going to know that their like new characters are going to be hated. So I think what better way to get more hate on them than to have them beat Sting in his last match. I mean, come on.
That's a good point. That would, because it's like, when it's Baron Corbin, it's like you're booing it because you actually hate it.
Yes.
But when it's the Young Bucks, it's like, you sons of bitches, like you just beat our hero Sting, So that's interesting that it's heat for the Young Bucks, right? Maybe they stomp out Sting or something, or rob him of some moment, right? That It seems like they're doing that.
And then maybe a Darby can get the Young Bucks to like stomp out Sting and really beat him down. Then maybe Darby saves him a little bit at the end, so then even Darby gets some rub from this too. So I think that's what's going to happen. That's what we got ahead, I think.
Can you imagine in Greensboro, it's just Sting and Darby laid out. There's just chairs everywhere. They would be throwing cups at these guys. It would be like the Bash at the Beach when Hogan came out and delivered the leg drop to Macho Man. They would just be throwing their beers at the Young Bucks.
Oh, it's going to be nice. I think that's going to be good. I hope they do that, because that sounds good.
But what I was going to say was, I think with this match, Sting and the Young Bucks, I think it would be also totally fine to give Sting a win. That would also be it wouldn't be robbing the younger generation of anything. Yeah. It would be like, it's like, this is Sting. He's a legend, one of the most legendary wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest of all time. He can go out with his hands raised too. Nobody's losing anything there either, if we want to have that moment in Greensboro,
That's true. And also, like, the Young Bucks can absorb that, talk a bunch of shit, and be fine.
Right. Like, yeah, they can come out and be massive, like, heels, and then Sting is the giant hero when he beats them.
Yeah, and then afterwards, even if like they can just absorb that too, like Sting gets his hand raised, he's like the hero in his final match, and then even like on Dynamite the next week, Young Bucks come back, just douche it up, and they're fine.
Yeah, like you said, they wouldn't lose anything from a loss there. So that should be good at Revolution. I am looking forward to it. When I think it was after Bray Wyatt passed away, I was saying like we need to like give tributes to these wrestlers before they pass away, right? Like we need these almost like tribute shows, right, to these guys or whatever while they're still here. And I think like for Sting, this is like as close as it's going to get, right? Where it's Revolution, but it's basically the pay-per-view could be called Sting's last match, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So just in general, like it seems like it's going to be kind of a, even if nothing else besides the match, like I would guess they might end the show with that match. Right? Sting's last match. You could.
Yeah, you definitely could.
So I feel like this is that. This is them. This is AEW kind of paying tribute to a legend that's still here to be able to appreciate it. And I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to Revolution. And it's going to be emotional. Sting's last match. It's going to be emotional. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. But another thing that got me emotional this week on Dynamite, I just remembered I want to talk about. This week on Dynamite, it was the 1 year anniversary of the passing of the great Jay Briscoe, who died last year at this time in a car accident, tragically. And I thought this was also an incredibly touching moment this week on Dynamite, because we got Mark Briscoe. For one, it's crazy to think that it's been a year already.
That was crazy. I couldn't believe that.
So then we got Mark Briscoe coming out, and I just remember even that first match after Jay Briscoe died, I was just thinking, like, how difficult must it be for Mark Briscoe to be in that ring right now, without Jay Briscoe. So, and I definitely teared up after that one. And so he comes out, and the Pugh family is ringside, and Mark Briscoe starts talking about how, we lost his partner and his brother a year ago. And his niece and Jay Briscoe's children were in the car with him during the car accident, and his young niece was told that she would never walk again. And then he said, and this was like kind of lost in the moment of the emotion and everything, but then he tried to do the however, like the Howard Finkel, however.
Oh, yeah.
He tried. And then he brought out, Jay Briscoe's daughter, who was told she would never walk again, and she was able to walk out onto the stage on Dynamite. And I don't know. I just thought it was a very touching moment, and just wanted to talk about that for a second. So rest in peace to the legend, Jay Briscoe.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's keep going here. So one thing that I had to carve out some time for in the theme of Triple H using his NXT book on the main roster, and just everything that both you and I predicted would happen happened, and everything from NXT Black and Gold is just happening, right? On Raw, pretty much, and on SmackDown. So if you want to find out what they're going to do on Raw and SmackDown coming up, just go back, about 5 years and watch some NXT. Can't wait till we get Sasha Bailey on Raw.
Yeah, right, I know. Andrade versus Drew McIntyre, that's coming soon.
Oh, yeah, well, that actually probably is coming soon. Andrade versus Drew McIntyre, yeah, we saw that one live at a house show, actually, at an NXT house show, if you remember.
We did, that's right.
Okay.
Whoa.
Is that Vince calling you up, Hunter?
Sorry.
How do we get your phone on the loudspeaker?
I do not know how that happened. I am so sorry.
Interrupting our show. Can't even get a show done around here. But yeah, so one of my favorite things from NXT was Pete Dunne. If you remember him, he wrestled on NXT. He was called the Bruiserweight. He came about in the United Kingdom Championship Tournament. Remember when he had that face-off with William Regal, which we never got a match between Pete Dunne and William Regal?
Yeah.
And I thought for sure after that 2-night show that they did to crown the first United Kingdom champion that we were getting Pete Dunne and William Regal. But sadly, we didn't. I think there's still time, to be honest. But Pete Dunne, I keep talking about Pete Dunne. I don't know if he was really on the main roster in WWE. He may have had a brief run. But what we got on SmackDown last week was Tyler Bate, that big strong boy, which he's been a big strong boy for 7 years now. Is Tyler Bate ever going to be a big strong man?
It's a good question. I mean, I think he's still only 25, so who knows?
When he was 19 years old in NXT UK, it's this is a big strong boy. But here we are. I am much older, so he must be as well.
Yeah, give that guy give him some credit. Jeez, big strong man.
Yeah. So Tyler Bate, again, another guy. He had a run in NXT. You might remember him. Actually, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, that match they had is really one of my favorite matches, I think. And it really turned me on to all those guys.
I think the match was it Walter and Pete Dunne too? Oh man. Check that out too. I remember that one. That was crazy.
So Tyler Bate talking to Butch he was talking to the Brawling Brutes Butch, which we all know. We all know the Brawling Brutes Butch. But apparently the Brawling Brutes are no more, apparently. Because Tyler Bate is sitting there just shooting the shit with Butch, trying to get him to actually be more calm and meditative, which I can also appreciate. You don't get enough of that in wrestling. Someone saying, hey, maybe you should calm down a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's people screaming all the time. But he's telling Butch, Butch is saying he doesn't know what's next. The Brawling Brutes are in the past, which thank God. I mean, they had a moment, I feel like.
Yeah, they're fine.
But it was not something that I felt like needed to go on. I'm not missing anything by having them no longer be brawling. Like in general, just a pet peeve of mine is this like character where I just want to fight for the sake of fighting. I'll just bash the guy next to me because I'm a fighter and I want to fight. It's like, to me, that's the dumbest character in all of wrestling, sports entertainment, anything. Just,
yeah, it's strange. Yeah,
like, I'll fight for $0. I want to get hit in the head. I just want to hit somebody in the head.
I was like, no one wants to fight. They either have to want to win a title or they want to make money. That's it.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that you're just motivated by more brain damage. You know?
That's fair.
But that was Sheamus's character for the past, 5 years. So, yeah, the Brawling Brutes, but they're no more. And now Butch doesn't, he's at, this crossroads. And Tyler Bate is asking him, what's next for you? What are you going to do next? And then he just, looks into the camera with that, Pete Dunne snarl into the camera, and it's just yes, come out, bring back Pete Dunne. Can Tyler Bate deprogram Butch? And if he can, he should take that show on the road, and everybody who has a shitty ass name should be changed back to their old name, and that should be Tyler Bate's gimmick.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, right.
We can retroactively go back and make it so Tyler Bate was the one who changed Max Dupree into LA Knight. Because that story, there was no story there. It was
yeah.
It was just somebody else is in charge of writing this shit. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm LA Knight. Boom. And then people were just thank God, moved on. But this is an actual story of how you get from one character to the next.
That would be actually, it's not a bad story either. Like you said, telling Butch to calm down. Butch is this, I believe, I hate saying this because it's so corny, but I believe they want him to be the scrappy dude. Did someone actually say that, or am I just making that up?
I think Pete Dunne said that.
Oh God! So that's
told him that.
I hate that, and yeah. So he's hyperactive or whatever. And if Tyler Bate is why don't you calm down? Maybe the calmness turns him into Pete Dunne, and that's all we need. I always say on this show, I always say in my life, you just need a little stupid thing to make someone change, especially if we crave the old thing. That's all we need.
Yeah, and then pretty soon we'll be back to Pete Dunne putting wrestling belts in his mouth and me worrying about his teeth falling out.
Yeah, he'll be messing with people's fingers in no time.
Oh yes, the finger work will resume, folks.
That's right.
No, I'm really pumped for what seems like the return of Pete Dunne.
We're almost on our way to Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne versus DIY at WrestleMania. Not this year, but that could happen sometime.
Yeah, or just Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne.
Oh, that too, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Because Tyler Bate's another guy the guy was 19 years old and he was having the match of the year, or he was at least having a 5-star match at age 19.
Yeah.
So, and then they just kind of, recently he was in NXT and he looked like somebody's grandfather boxing coach.
Now it's back together.
Right, now it's back together, and he's also going to get Pete Dunne back together.
He's he has this gimmick that's not even a real gimmick, but it makes sense.
So we'll see. Pete Dunne. I'm looking forward to it. And another guy who showed up somewhere is Jack Perry. Did you see this? I turned on New Japan the other week, and I see what I thought was Luke Perry on Oz. I thought that we were looking at prisoner number 00C966, the Reverend Jeremiah Cloutier. Did you see Jack Perry with his beard?
He looked, that's how you got to look, though. He looked completely different. He looked exactly like his father, like you said. That's a great picture that you sent me of the great Reverend. Looks exactly the same. And if you're going to be a heel or whatever the hell he's going for, that's the look you go for.
Yeah, so Jack Perry shows up in New Japan. He attacks Shota Umino, and he said something into the camera, and it was so fitting that you couldn't really read his damn lips. It's just he looks into the camera and he's just like, "What? Did you forget about me and go on? Are you spending too much time on Twitter?" I don't have any confirmation of what he actually said, but he looks into the camera and then he looks like he's talking directly to Tony Khan, and he's like, "What? did you spend all your time, did you forget about me and spend all your time on Twitter? And then he goes in the ring and he rips up his AEW contract. Do you think it was a shoot? Do you think he really ripped up the contract?
I mean, listen, I don't want to get too like inside baseball, but if you rip up a contract, it does not make it null and void. So I'm just saying.
What contract? If you rip it up, what contract are we even talking about? It's gone.
I guess you're right.
Maybe you have to like rip it up, then shred it, then like burn it, then take like the ashes of the contract and like put it in your blender and make it into like a smoothie. Then you have to drink it. Then maybe it's null and void.
That seems about right. At least 5 steps, yeah.
That was actually an Adult Swim or a Robot Chicken bit with how they would actually kill Michael Myers. They put him in a blender, but he still came back. So that contract, ironclad. You're not ripping up that contract, Jungle Boy.
But I mean, it's cool. I mean, good for him. I mean, I kind of like it. I'm kind of into it. Scapegoat on the arm. He's angry. He has a beard. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. He's angry and he's got a beard. I think we've all been there. Like, I'm growing a fucking beard.
I'm too angry to shave.
But yeah, so I really thought we were looking at the Reverend Jeremiah Cloutier. So rest in peace, Luke Perry, and rest in peace, spoiler, to the Reverend Jeremiah Cloutier. And if you know, you know, okay? If you watch the show Oz, you know the fate of the Reverend Cloutier.
Let's hope that's not Jack Perry's career. Got him. Let's
hope Jack Perry gets bricked up in the gym only.
That's correct.
But yeah, no, I was looking for a photo of Luke Perry because I saw the Jungle Boy scene, and I'm like, not only does he yet again, is he like a spitting image of his father, but I literally thought of the show Oz, and I'm like, he's his father's character on Oz. Like, he looks just like Luke Perry on Oz, which he had a beard. And it really just made me dive into the show Oz again. And I'm at the point now, Wrestling Fan Kris, where we might need to do a separate podcast journey where this becomes Watch Oz.
an Oz cast, if you will, right?
Yeah, an Watch Oz podcast. We might go back and do a podcast about the show Oz, because just talking about it even before we started here, I am so amped up to go watch it again for like the 5th round of watching the entire series. And I did have the DVDs. I don't anymore, but I did have those box sets.
Man, you got rid of the box sets. Come on.
Yeah, I think I sold them at like a tag sale, to be honest.
Oh, that happens.
For like $5. And I think I only had like up to season 4 or something like that. I don't remember how many seasons there were. But no, one of my favorite shows of all time, Oz. Thank you, Jack Perry, for the accidental Oz reference to your father. Like I said, prisoner number 00C966.
He's already getting you to feel emotions. He's a great heel.
Yeah. So yeah, back to Jack Perry. I think that Jack Perry has the potential to become an actual giant heel in AEW, like when he gets back to AEW.
I think so too. He just I think we were discussing this earlier before the show hit record, where he's like, people already don't like him, right? People already think he's the reason that Punk's gone, or they chose him over CM Punk in AEW, so they already have that resentment. So he can just play off that and kind of go deeper, dig deeper.
Yeah, so he's got a good starting point in that a lot of people hate him. Do you know how many people, this is what they try to accomplish in wrestling? They want people to hate them. And it's like, Jungle Boy, you have that in the palm of your hand. You have everybody fucking hates you, right? And it's not everybody. It's just some people just like hate his face. You know, it's almost like they don't even know why. Why do you hate him so much? You hate him because he's not as good as what? The other 3 pillars? Like, because he's not as good as Darby, or he's not as charismatic as MJF. Like, do you remember the whole 4 pillars thing? He was kind of like the weak link, right? And it's just like, why again? Why do you hate him? Doesn't really matter, does it? Just the fact that we hate him. And unlike Sammy Guevara, I think he's going to be able to turn people not liking him into people wanting to watch him because of that heat and they don't like him, you know?
I hope so. Yeah, he seems like a guy who could. The beard helps because you're right. Some people just have a face you want to either punch or just not like, and at least cover that up a little bit.
Yeah, and I just think he's got potential as a heel. I'm not saying he's going to do anything groundbreaking in New Japan. It could just be like a thing, you know.
But I mean, isn't that the place where you kind of go, right? If people think like, if you can like cut it in Japan, even if he doesn't cut it in Japan, actually, let's just say he doesn't. He can even come back though to AEW and then talk about how he was like this, how he was in Japan and you weren't in Japan and I went to the rings and I fought all these people and look at me and I'm great. That's a good way to do it too. I like where it's going.
You mean he's not just going to come back from Japan and just start chopping the shit out of everybody?
He might. I mean, yeah, maybe. yeah, I know. The first head drop, we'll know. He wrestles in the Budokan.
Well, I think he'll be a real heel if he shows up with like a Ribera Steakhouse jacket. That'll make Batista angry at him if he starts disrespecting the Ribera Steakhouse. He'll get some real heat.
We don't need that kind of heat, okay? Jeez.
Yeah, you don't want Big Dave, on your bad side. I don't know who it was, but remember that Batista was like, "I'm being serious with you. Delete this tweet." About the Ribera. Somebody was like, "I don't get the whole Ribera Steakhouse thing. The steak sucks." And he's like, "I'm honest. I'm being serious with you. You need to delete this tweet right now. You have no idea." Like, that should be where Jungle Boy gets to, where Batista is telling you, "I'm not kidding. Delete this tweet. You have no idea what you've done."
I hope he gets there.
Let's get there. We can do it. All right, so we got to move on, though. So, yeah, another guy who showed up somewhere is, did you see this? Did you see this TNA show? We had AJ Francis and DJ Hookid showing up in TNA. We also had Dana Brooke, now known as Ash by Elegance, signing with TNA. But I think the biggest debut was one Nic Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, showing up in TNA wrestling. What did you think of Nic Nemeth's TNA, introduction there?
Hey, so he's a big name, and I like it because these are the kind of places you can go and kind of just like do your own thing because you have such gravitas in the wrestling world. And I'm excited to see where he goes because I'm sure he wants to do a lot of stuff. I'm sure he was sick of wearing bright colors and having that stupid theme song and always losing. So wherever he shows up, like New Japan 2, TNA, I think he's going to do big things. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so he also, him and his brother, the Hollywood Hunk, were at, I believe it was Wrestle Kingdom that they were there for in Japan. And so he's making appearances in New Japan. He made his debut. He attacked Moose in TNA. He is feuding with the indie god, Matt Cardona. They are going to wrestle at an upcoming GCW show. So Nic Nemeth is going to be that guy who kind of seems like he's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the the deathmatch background. I don't know if Moxley does either, but it kind of reminds me of how like Dean Ambrose was kind of like sour and kind of boring and stale and stupid. And then Moxley comes back out. He's in New Japan doing some cool stuff. He's in AEW doing cool stuff. So I think this like Dolph Ziggler was kind of played out, kind of boring, kind of stale. And now here comes Nic Nemeth, and he's going to be in New Japan doing cool stuff and being in TNA, being in GCW. So I see that happening for him.
Yeah, I think that he can get over by kind of reminding everybody what it was about him, 10 years ago that made everybody say, this is the guy.
Yes.
He may not be the guy anymore, but I think he can win us all back to just think back to that moment. The music hits. He's walking down the aisle with Big E and AJ and that Money in the Bank briefcase and that look on his face when he's just like, I am fucking cashing in this fucking briefcase. It's like that moment. That was one of my favorite Money in the Bank cash-ins.
Oh, yeah.
Dolph Ziggler. One of his best moments, obviously, in his career. And I think that he can remind people like why you cared about me, like I said, 10 years ago or whatever it was, with just hard work and just bumping through chairs.
Diving over podium desks and attacking people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just diving headfirst into anything.
Yes.
No, there's obviously a lot more to it than that, but yeah. So for sure, Nic Nemeth popping up in TNA. I'm back in TNA. Did I say it on the show about how everybody called TNA Impact, or everybody called Impact TNA? I think I did. But it was hard for me to start calling it TNA. It's hard for me to say it right now, TNA, honestly.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like good for them, I guess. Cool.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we got anything else to talk about before we get out of here? Oh yeah, let's talk about this Pro Wrestling Grind show that we attended last Saturday. So right off the bat, getting to East Hampton, we were off to the races. Am I right, Wrestling Fan Kris?
Oh yeah.
We got in that parking lot, and for one, clear night. If you listen to this show, you know I don't like driving in the snow to wrestling shows. I don't like having to park my car around other wrestling fans' cars. I don't like driving in the rain, down hills, up hills. I don't like driving far places. I don't like going to Worcester. I don't like going to Boston. I don't like going anywhere. I only want to go places that I can like Uber home if I need to, which is a very unrealistic expectation, especially where we live in, Western Mass, Northern Connecticut area.
Yeah.
You're not Ubering anywhere.
No.
There's no towns, right? It's like you got to drive anywhere. And so it's tough, But clear night, no ice on the roads. It was a fine trip to East Hampton. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, mild too. It wasn't that cold that night. It was pretty good.
Yeah. So we got to the parking lot of the Pulaski Club in East Hampton. And right off the bat, some guy out there in the parking lot, he sees me and Wrestling Fan Kris, and he goes, "You guys here for the wrestling?" And we were like, "Yup." And I'm thinking he's going to be like, "Yeah, me too. I don't know where to go. Cool." And he just goes, "How much is it?" I told him. And he's like, "Yeah, that's why I'm not going upstairs tonight." Spoiler, there's a bar in the basement. And what I should have told this guy when he said, "How much is it?" I should have told him that it was going to cost him as much as 5 of whatever he was drinking that night.
Oh yeah, that's it. We know.
5. It's going to cost you about 5 of those. 5 of those. Rum and Coke, Bud Light. What are you drinking?
He was drinking like Natty Ice. Okay, that's what he's drinking. All right.
Whatever you're drinking tonight, you're going to have to set aside 5 of those if you want to come upstairs to watch the wrestling. But yeah, that was just the beginning of the night. It was fun. 5 matches. Show was called Love It Loud. And we were measuring the decibels. I literally drove back home when I forgot my Apple Watch to get these decibels. And so coming in hot was the hometown hero, the hometown heroine, Delmy Exo, when she was in the ring, and they announced her as being from East Hampton, Massachusetts. Decibels were coming in about 95 decibels. According to my Apple Watch, this says, repeated long-term exposure to sounds at this level can damage your hearing. 95 decibels. And the reason why I did this was because the last grind show we went to, all I did was look down at my watch, and it said, I'm not kidding, 115 decibels, right? Which I looked it up when I got home. That's not good.
Doesn't sound good.
That's louder than a jet engine, right? So, and if you remember, Kris, the other show that we went to, Heavy Lies the Crown, I think it was called, right? That show was like way too fucking loud. Like it was much less loud this weekend. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know if they were piping in noise or something at the first show, but I couldn't hear anything for like a day and a half afterwards.
No, it was just the noise was just rattling off the pipes. That's what it was.
Yes, that's what.
No, it was coming. It was just bouncing off the walls. It was brain rattling in there last time we went. So, of course, we're measuring the decibels this time, right? Delmy Exo. I don't have everybody here, but what I can tell you is we had. Oh no, maybe Delmy Exo was 102 decibels. I apologize, folks. We're going to make a correction to the record. Delmy Exo was 102 decibels, right? There's the evidence.
That's way too loud. Oh.
And so we're at 102. The loudest, well, the second loudest, coming in, we had these two jokers who were trying to dress like DX. Who were these guys? These guys coming in 96 decibels. We had Workin' Heel that night, the Miracle Generation, which we'll talk about. 96 decibels. Again, repeated long-term exposure can damage your hearing. But guys, it does not get any louder than the reaction for coming in at 106 decibels. Dem Circus Boys, the main event, folks. 106 decibels. Happy to damage my hearing when the main event comes out.
That's correct.
That's why I drove to East Hampton, was to see the main event. But yeah, main event versus the Miracle Generation. I would have to say match of the night overall.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
listen. Match of the night overall was the main event, Mike Skyros versus the Honey Badger, Ryan Mooney. I think overall, that was my favorite match. I thought it was the best match of the night.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Honey Badger was really good. He was very good.
Right? The Miracle Generation main event, obviously high expectations. Like Midas Black said in the ring, you got two of the best tag teams right here. And it's true. Two of the best tag teams anywhere. Miracle Generation and the main event. Good match for sure. Miracle Generation trying to work heel. And, you know, we may have walked into the building that night.
That's right.
A little kayfabe getting broken. Pretty sure we walked in the building. We see Kylon King and Midas Black just walking up the stairs together.
Ugh.
Like, dudes, you guys are wrestling tonight. You're gonna kill this whole business.
I mean, I'm give Colin King credit. When he saw me looking at them together, he said, "Man, I hate you. Get away from me." To Midas Black, trying to keep the business alive,
Yeah,
but
trying not to kill the business, but
too late.
dead. R.I.P. the wrestling business. No, so Miracle Generation, some sweet new DX gear they had on.
It was very good, yeah.
Now, what they really should do is it's like the spray paint DX, like when they DX returned. It's like a Miracle MG, some cool gear they have. I almost bought one of the shirts. I would have patronized these guys. I only had $12 in my pocket. That was the problem. I pulled out my wallet. I had $12, so could not scoop up one of these shirts. I'll probably get one. I'll probably wear it on the show or put it behind me here in the podcast dungeon here.
So I did learn afterwards that Dustin Flash Waller was accepting Venmo, so you could have paid him that way.
Oh, jeez. Well, I apologize to...
Didn't know that at the time, because I probably would have got one too.
Yeah, next time, brother.
I just want to point out in East Hampton, I think it's funny because the last time we were there, Marcus Mathers did not expect to be a heel in a match against Becca, and he was. And I think in this match, I don't think the Miracle Generation expected to be full-on heels, and they just played it up really well. East Hampton, the Pulaski Club is like the night after WrestleMania, right, JBL? All right, you never know.
Bizarro world.
Yeah.
No, I do think they were working heel though. I just think they're not really used to it because everybody likes them.
Yeah, I mean they did a good job too, though. It's like I think Marcus Mathers did a great job too, but like he was like surprised about it and was a little rattled at first. Miracle Generation snapped right into it. Good for them.
Yeah. So they were working heel. They did pull out the referee, Bill, I believe his name is. Good guy.
Yeah, love Bill.
On the 3 count, when I believe it was Jay Lyon was about to get the win, and then the ref got pulled out. That was probably the best, I guess, like moment of the night to me, was that here we go, the main event's about to win.
Yep.
Ref gets pulled out. Just, oh my God.
Yeah, not only was it good for the moment where like we were like the main event was going to win, we were so excited. It was timed so perfectly.
Yes.
Like it was so good. What a well done spot.
Yes, it was timed perfectly. Unlike that time that we saw Kylon King come soaring into the crowd, and literally Dustin Waller says, "You guys should move," as Kylon King's feet are leaving the ring.
Yeah,
That was not timed so perfectly. But this
No.
this was. And that was,
Yes.
I believe, in Enfield one time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Early on in our trips.
So, yeah, so we had the main event. Like I said, main event, Miracle Generation. I texted Wrestling Fan Kris a picture of that match when I found out about it. And I said, Saturday night? And he said, yes. So we were there.
Literally, honestly, that's exactly like, you don't have those two teams going against each other close by to me or you, and we not seeing it. That's happening.
Yes, sign me up. I'm in. And we also had Rip Bison returning from Japan. Remember right before the match, what did I say? I said, I wonder what Rip Bison ate when he was in Japan. Do you think he ate a lot of beef, a lot of chicken, maybe some seafood? And we found out he was fed a diet of straight chops.
That's right.
Because Rip Bison came back from Japan looking beefy, looking like he ate some chops, and also delivering so many goddamn chops to Bateman, who I will say, Bateman's chops sounded much more painful. I don't know what the technique was that he employed, but his reverberated. I'm sure the decibels were up on just the chops coming from Bateman.
Next time we'll get the chop decibels and we'll see, yeah.
And then as I tweeted out, Rip Bison, more like Bite Bison. These guys were biting each other 3 feet away from us. It was incredible.
It was funny because we talked about how close the guardrails were to the ring, and we're like, these guys can't do any work on the ground, on the floor. First match, out on the floor immediately, doing great work.
Great bites. I tried showing some of those up close videos of these two guys biting each other to some of like my coworkers, and they didn't think it was awesome. I was like, look at this video, this guy's biting him. And they were like, why are you showing me this? Why do you have this?
You'll be in the HR office tomorrow.
Yeah, not safe for work, Rip Bison taking a chunk out of Bateman, and then Bateman biting him on the face as well. And then the Bateman did keep kayfabe alive, though, throwing up that mouth guard, as you pointed out.
Dude, I'm telling you, he threw up. I didn't. He's supposed to throw up his mouth guard. I thought he caught it and put it back in his mouth, but I'm telling you, he just threw the hand in the air. Nothing went in the air, and he pretended. It was amazing.
I got the video. I watched it back. It's exactly what he did.
Wow, good. I'm glad I still got it at my old age. I can still catch that stuff.
Yeah. And we had
Griffin McCoy. Yeah, I'm still on the fence about Griffin McCoy. We'll see how long this top guy challenge goes for. I kind of like it. We'll see how it goes too, because I kind of like a heel that way, smarmy. So we'll see how he is. He was all right in the ring. It wasn't great, but he was very smarmy. I liked it.
And then the main event for the Grind Grand Championship, we had Mike Skyros defending against the rabid honey badger Ryan Mooney, who came out in looked like the dog catcher just got to him. Somebody must have called the East Hampton Animal Control on this dude.
That's
because he came out in like a cage, and they couldn't get him out of the cage. But
it was he got out though. Spoiler, he got out.
Yeah, it was a good match too. And then of course we got the setup for another wrestler returning from excursion in Japan, Perry Von Vicious. He came out. He says he wants a challenge for the Grind Grand Championship. Came out at the end, chased out Mike Skyros. Guy just had a grueling match. Can't even show him the respect of a champion that he deserves.
I know.
Give him some time in the ring. Got to hog the spotlight, Perry. But Perry Von Vicious comes out, holds up the Grind Grand Championship, and we are going to get Perry Von Vicious challenging for the Grind Grand Championship at their upcoming show in March, which, did you see this? It's a 2-day show. I'm very curious who they get for it when they have to book 2 nights.
Yeah, that is wild. 2 nights, but there'll be 4 matches, right? No, just
4 matches on each night, yeah.
Yeah. But that's all right. I mean, hey, who knows?
I'm sure we'll see that same dude there both nights asking us how much it costs to get in. And then, we are on the indie scene, folks. We're going to Beyond. We're going to Blitzkrieg Pro in Westfield at the East Mountain Country Club. It better not fucking snow. If it snows, I blame Leary if it snows again in Westfield. It's going to be his fault. If I have to
I agree.
drive up a mountainous road to get to wrestling. And then we're also going to go check out that just announced Blitzkrieg Pro Show in good old Tower Square, Springfield, Massachusetts. Beautiful. Springfield, Massachusetts.
I am looking forward to seeing a show in Tower Square. Like, I want to see the ring in the middle of a mall. That's going to be great.
Interesting spot there, that abandoned Tower Square central area inside Tower Square. But yeah, it's fun. And that is Uberable. So you already know we'll be there. And sadly, a show that we're not going to be able to attend is when two of our favorites are going to go to war, sadly, as they will no longer be teaming up with one another after the devastating betrayal perpetrated by Mr. Aiden Agro, don't even want to say his name, betraying Danger Kid at the last Limitless Wrestling show.
Unbelievable.
One of my favorite tag teams. To me, this moment was right up there with the barbershop window. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
I
Definitely.
mean, just rip my heart out of my chest, you bastards.
I definitely love Danger Kid more than Marty Jannetty.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hands down. Danger Kid is the man. But yes, Aggro turning on Danger Kid. MSP is no more, and they will face off in the main event of the next Limitless Wrestling show. Bummed I'm not going to be there, but like another thing that I tweeted, the drip drop will live on my Spotify playlist. So,
Yes, it will.
so rest in peace, MSP and Aggro. Why? That's all I want to know. Why? But yeah, that about does it for this episode of Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the podcast. You already know we appreciate you, and you already know where you can find this podcast. So subscribe, like, share. And yeah, what does this button do?
What's a baby face? He may need attention. What's a baby face?
Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman. Help me.
Won't open? Won't open. Not this one. Not this one. None of them open. Still selling fake doors. We have fake doors like you wouldn't believe. What are you worried about? Come get fake doors. Call us up and order some fake doors today. Don't even hesitate. Don't even worry. And don't even give it a second thought.